Welcome to the Knights of the Tax Roundtable. I am Justin Chu, Senior Program Associate for the Field Engagement Team here at Prosperity Now, and I'm joined with our Chair and Vice Chair of the Taxpayer Opportunity Network. First, Cara Cardotti from United Way of Greater Richmond and Petersburg, and then Courtney O'Reilly from Tax Help Colorado. So thank you all for joining. Before we dive on in, I think the first really big item is there's a lot of discussion around the taxes and tax law this season. Tons of things are in flux. We just got news of the new filing season start. And what would you say to VITA programs in the face of all this uncertainty?
I'm happy to go first. One of the things I would strongly recommend that I think is vital to any tax season success is to really rely on partners, including using the Tax Roundtable's listserv, leaning on other groups, because it is a lot for any one program to try to digest and interpret all on their own. And so I think one thing that I've always found strength in is getting to know partners like Cara and working with her and just shooting ideas back and forth of how are you interpreting this? How are you utilizing this? And so I think, that would be my one recommendation, is just really utilize the resources that are there. And so many times it's each other.
Thanks, Courtney. I definitely feel that's the one benefit of the VITA program. Whether you have, a full complement of staff that you can bounce ideas off of, but as many of us don't, we definitely take advantage of the resources and the willingness of what I found is everybody's willing to kind of share their ideas, whether it's on the listserv or a one-on-one exchange, that really is very valuable. I definitely feel that we as VITA programs this year need to remember that we're going to need to be flexible. Things are going to change as we've seen just in terms of tax law and the potential start date, but really gathering your internal partners and figuring out what works best for them, in terms of being ready for what do they need, what things do we still need to provide to get everybody ready to go whenever that's going to be.
Yeah, I think the all hands on deck approach is even more valid. I've been involved with VITA. This is my 5th year involved in VITA, and it's always all hands on deck, and there's never really a normal. So I think that leads into my next question, which is about how do you feel about the upcoming filing season? What do you think about the prospect of it?
I'll just been kicking that out pretty quickly. I think I'm just most excited to really see what our programs are capable of doing. We're being asked to think outside our traditional VITA approach, and really see where our sites can go, whether they're able to do any kind of in-person work with, and obviously we're really, still in a pandemic and need to be very careful at our individual, within our individual programs and our states, and following those guidelines and suggestions. But we're able to still, in that vein, still offer some in-person services, or we're maybe even looking at something new like facilitated self-assist and DIY options and online coaching using technology. And then, of course, many of us are looking at virtual VITA, and some of us for the very first time. These are things, I've been part of the VITA world since 2005. And this wouldn't even have been on our radar, even just a few years ago, is even making it possible to continue to offer the service. So that's what I'm most excited about, just to see what we're able to do and how we're still able to come together, both, within our organizations and our coalitions, but also just across the country, and really see how well VITA, how strong we are, if it's not evident on just the conversation that comes out in our work groups and our listserv. People want to, we all want to help people, and still to be able to have that conversation. That's what I'm most excited about.
Yeah, and I think as far as how I'm feeling about the upcoming season, if I'm being completely honest and transparent, I'm generally nervous. I think this is going to be my 10th tax season, and I feel the same way I felt in my first tax season of just a lot of uncertainty, a lot of wondering how is this all going to come together. But I guess I'm also really hopeful that I've been through, we've all been through some challenging years before. There's no normal year for VITA, or I've never encountered one. There's always some new obstacle that we're trying to do, and it definitely feels like there's quite a few obstacles this year that are new for us to get over. But I think, especially to Cara's point, is there are a lot of new resources that we are utilizing. While it's hard in the first year of implementing those resources and testing new things, I think hopefully, if anything, this is just going to strengthen VITA nationally, as far as being able to reach new clientele, better access families who are in the greatest need, whether that's creating new ways of offering in-person services or the virtual options or the do-it-yourself option. So I think, if anything, hopefully all this nervousness and anxiety is going to produce a stronger VITA program long term.
Yeah, I mean, as we've all read in promotional emails from everywhere, we're settling into the new normal. We're making a new normal here together. And yeah, I think that all the work now hopefully will materialize into something even better. We've talked a lot about virtual in the past, and it's now great to see something so large scale and effort. Obviously, the circumstances aren't ideal, but not a lot we can do about that. I think my second to last question is really something you're looking forward to during the filing season. What are you looking forward to the most?
Yeah, so our program, I know not all programs have decided to do this, but we're still recruiting new volunteers. And because we're doing all of our training remotely, we're actually getting quite a few volunteers that aren't in our normal location. And so I'm really excited to see how some of those volunteers come together. I think, again, it's learning about new ways of serving people and working together in a community. We've also been able to partner with new types of partnerships to do some of the virtual support where they're doing the on-the-ground support, but not necessarily the tax support side of things. And so I think it's, getting to see this broader coalition of partners and individuals coming together that makes me really excited for this tax season.
Courtney, I think that's one of the most interesting things I think I picked up on you saying that you were getting new volunteers that weren't necessarily in your normal service footprint. We've kind of seen the benefit of that as well. I've kind of joked, I don't know how strong our Google search must be, but we've gotten volunteers that we have utilized in all over Virginia, which our service footprint isn't that large, but we've also even gotten interest from volunteers in other states. And so we've been able to also kind of share those volunteers with those state partners, where we found the connection via the listserv or through TON. And I'm really excited about the potential there. We've also worked with university students, and we will continue to do that. Obviously, normally we do that in person, but we've got some restrictions that we're working with. So our volunteers there will be virtual, and they'll be supporting our virtual operations. So I'm excited to see how that might open up doors for folks to be involved as well. And I'm just excited about the potential for new customers, folks that wouldn't necessarily or had not even heard about our services, or because we're able to offer this virtual assistance that could see us having new customers in different parts of the state where we don't necessarily have a traditional VITA presence, is really exciting. To be able to assist customers that are in need of our services, and maybe even bringing them to current, because we are able to do prior year returns as well, to be able to help them get caught up, and just kind of seeing what's going to happen. How I think we're going to come out on the other side and say, whether this worked great or not, I think we're going to have some really good experiences to be able to see how this is going to help our program moving forward. Maybe we always will do a drop-off service, moving forward, and the traditional approach, it wasn't what was best. So that'll be interesting to see as well.
Yeah, and actually, just to go off that, something that I think you're exactly right of getting those new clients in that haven't utilized VITA before. When we were working with Get Your Refund over the summer and through the extended filing season, I would say most of the people we worked with weren't our normal clients, that they had never come to a VITA site before, that they were mostly, they were made aware of us because of the economic impact payment, and then come to find out they had a small amount of income that they were like, well, I'm under the filing threshold. That story we all know of why people are missing really valuable credits and why they get behind on filing their tax return. And so I'm really hopeful that this will just allow us to reach new people and serve new clients in a different way. I don't think there is one silver bullet. I don't think that exists for VITA, and we can't really hope for that. But at the same time, it's one more way that this might reach just one other family. I'm going to be curious in a couple of years when the IRS has their kind of estimated participation rate in the EITC to see how that's changed for 2019 and 2020.
Agreed. And I think just at the partner level too, what the last 10, 11 months from last season into this season has done, at least from a coalition perspective in our state, is that we've gotten together, our Virginia partners have gotten together virtually more often than we were ever getting together before. So I think that's really been great, because to know that you're not by yourself, you're not going, other people like us are, we're still kind of working out all those details, and it's just given us a platform to be able to, share ideas and maybe learn something new. So I'm excited just to see what other partners in our state and, across VITA are able to accomplish this season as well.
Yeah, I think it's going to be a very interesting filing season, but there's never shortage for interesting things. I think the last thing I want to ask you guys is just about something you think that VITA programs should look out for this filing season. Obviously, there's a ton of new stuff coming out, and things are changing almost every week, almost every day. So what do you think VITA programs should be on the lookout for?
I don't know the best way to say this. I think we have more what I call kind of education credit scenarios where nothing's really like set and done. There's no solid. There's a lot of trying to figure out what is in the taxpayer's best interest. How do you leverage the Pell Grants and everything else to get to optimize their American Opportunity Tax Credit? And that's this whole other kind of specialty in tax where it's not, you have to think outside of the software. And I think from what I've seen of the new tax law and come to understand is just so much of it is trying to figure out and optimize these different options for taxpayers. So really trying, obviously keeping a heads up, talking to other partners, keeping in close contact with your spec RM, making sure you're understanding and doing everything according to protocol. But then, identify those volunteers who are going to be the specialist in that area. I've heard other programs do this before with they have their self-employment specialists, they have this, and I think you really got to just be paying attention to what volunteers really get, how to best utilize pushing off the social or deferring the Social Security tax and all of those other things. So I think just looking out for what volunteers really have a knack for some of these more complicated tax topic and leaning into that service. Yeah.
Yeah, I think those are all amazing. One, check if you're seeing this conversation not part of the listserv, making sure that you're on the listserv and being part of the roundtable, because that is going to give you an instant, communication flow of what's happening. Volunteer tax alerts as well, making sure you know how to access that information so that you're seeing the changes that are happening. Courtney, you mentioned the deferral, the EITC look back is another big one. So I think you're right. It's just the potential to, have these conversations with, our community and what they need to bring to us to make sure that they're prepared, so that we can really, do good work in terms of their tax preparation so that they can see the maximum benefit of whatever the credits that they may be eligible for. I think there's going to be a lot of potential around that, and then just being flexible. I mean, that's one of the first things that I learned so many years ago as part of this work. There's never truly an easy tax season. Something always comes up, and we've obviously seen that so far with some of the things that have come out. But I think that's what makes us great in terms of being able to transition to if something's not working, let's see if we can pivot to something new, and with the thought of helping our community out the best way that we can. So we're in for a bumpy ride possibly, but I think we're going to come out and say, man, we learned a lot. Maybe we learned a lot that didn't necessarily work, but at least we went through that, and hopefully come out on the other side of it with some good information.
Yeah, one other thing. Sorry, I was thinking about it when Cara brought up the look back. One thing I would encourage all VITA programs to have at the ready is just kind of a resource sheet of how to help taxpayers get access to different things they may need this tax season. Obviously, we always encourage taxpayers to bring in their last year's return when they come and get help, but for us, at least, the vast majority don't bring that in, and knowing how important that is, and they might not have access to that any longer. And so having things like the link to request a transcript from your last year's return and how to go about that process. Things like requesting a new Social Security or a replacement Social Security card on the Social Security Administration website, especially if you're doing virtual and you're going to be getting new clients in that aren't as used to needing a Social Security card or a copy of that card to file. There's just a couple of other resources that I knew we used and just quickly link to constantly of trying to help support taxpayers get ready, since again, we're just potentially working with very new clientele who aren't used to working with VITA and don't have the system down, which may make it less efficient this year, but I think will be good in the long run.
Yeah, I think we need to stay agile, stay flexible, and we'll see what happens. We'll be like VITA gymnasts.
Yes.
But yeah, so I thank both of you for taking just a few minutes of your day to talk. We have a bunch of stuff on the channel for NYSA Tax Roundtable, and we'll continue to have stuff throughout the filing season. So I highly encourage everyone to stay tuned into those, and we'll catch you on the next one.
Thanks so much.
Thank you, guys.